Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to our follow-up religion lesson. This lesson today is still going to be about Pentecost. You might remember that yesterday I actually read you the story of Pentecost from the kids' Bible, the ones we have at school here. And then today we're going to be just exploring that a little bit more. Hopefully you managed to get your Find a Word done, and you are a little bit more familiar with some of the key words that were in this Bible part of the Bible. So let's have a look at Pentecost a little bit further. To do that, I want to actually show you this slideshow I've got up here, and we're just going to go through it and explore some of these concepts a little bit more. So I'm going to read it to you. All right, so this is going back to after Jesus resurrected at Easter time, okay? After Jesus' resurrection, he remained on earth for 40 days. During this time, he traveled to many places, talking to people about God and his love for them. So this was after Jesus came back to life. He did actually spend some time and many people saw him. Now, one day, Jesus took his followers to a mountain to speak to them for the last time. He told them that they were all to tell people about God's love and how he had been raised from the dead. He said that this wouldn't be easy, but that he would send them help. He told them that they would receive the Holy Spirit, which would stay with them forever and give them the power they needed to tell people about God. He promised that this gift would come, but they would have to be patient and wait for it. Okay, so remember, boys and girls, Jesus is leaving. He's going to heaven. He's going to leave the disciples there, and he's saying, look, I know this isn't an easy job, but it's now your job. My job's done. I've died on the cross. It's now your job to go and spread and teach everybody about me. So this was not an easy job. This was a very difficult job, but Jesus promised to send some help. But they would have to be patient until that help arrived. Okay? And with that, Jesus left for heaven. Okay. Now, we know from the story yesterday that the help arrived on Pentecost when the Holy Spirit came to the disciples. So I'll read this part. Jesus' followers continued to meet and pray together. 10 days after Jesus had ascended to heaven, they were all praying together in a room in Jerusalem. Remember, they were there for the festival, the Pentecost festival, which was a harvest festival at the time. And there were lots of people from all over those parts of the world coming to Jerusalem at that time. Okay, suddenly they heard a sound like a mighty wind rushing through the room. As they looked up, they saw flames appearing. The tongues of the flames separated and came to rest above each of their heads. The disciples were filled with the Holy Spirit, and they began to speak in different languages. All right, boys and girls, this part of the story that we also read about yesterday is the part of the story where the Holy Spirit comes to all of them and gives them the courage and the strength to do their job of spreading the word of Jesus, about Jesus. Okay, a very difficult job, and this is the help Jesus promised to send them, and the help that Jesus shares with us today still. Now, we've got two parts here that are a bit interesting. They said they heard the sound like a mighty wind rushing through the room. And then it says, as they looked up, they saw flames appearing. Now, was there actual fire above all the apostles' heads? I don't know. I wasn't there. Maybe, but I don't think so. In fact, even in the actual proper Bible, it says, not like this shortened version, it says tongues as if of fire. Like, so it's a symbolic, okay? And in this case, it's showing us, it's trying to describe to the reader how the Holy Spirit arrived. Okay? Now, was there actually a light or a fire or something? Look, maybe I wasn't there, but we can learn something from this regardless. Let's think about it. Let's take the example of fire. Fire is warm it's powerful, and it can catch on, it can spread. And think about this as in the type of courage. Courage can give us strength, okay? It can help us feel good, and it can spread. If you're feeling the courage to do something, then other people will copy along and go with you. And this courage, this peace, and this gift from the Holy Spirit, it spread amongst all of the disciples, and they were all then given this strength and the ability to go out and teach everyone about God, which was, remember, a very difficult and scary thing, because look what just happened to Jesus not long ago. He was killed for it. So going and talking about him a lot and telling people that they should follow him was a risky move. And there were many, many people who were persecuted or even killed because they did follow Jesus back in the olden days. Okay, so it took a lot of courage to do this. Okay, now let's go to the next slide here. Okay, the noise of the disciples praying and offering thanks to God drifted out of the room and on the streets. There were many people from many different countries in Jerusalem at the time, and they were surprised to hear these men from Galilee speaking in their languages. Okay, now this is another part of the story. All of the disciples were given the gift of tongues where they could speak lots of different languages. Did they suddenly be able to speak French when they couldn't before? Or Arabic where they couldn't before? Well, I'm not sure. I wasn't there, but we do know that there were people from many different lands and countries that came to Jerusalem for these festivals. And many of those people did hear about about Jesus from the disciples, and many of them would have been able to speak multiple languages because they were coming to go to the city and trade and interact. And word began to spread. It spread from the disciples to all of these people from other cultures and other areas. And in the story, it actually shows how. I'll just go down a bit more. Does it say? Yes. That day, yeah, that says there, that day 3,000 people were baptized. It was the birthday of the church. So that day, from the disciples talking and spreading the word about God, when there were so many people in the city, the story tells us that there are actually 3,000 people who were baptized, meaning they all became part of this new church to follow Jesus. So it was probably a very difficult job, but many people started to believe, and the word about Jesus spread. And as those people went back to their countries, word spread with them. They took the stories of Jesus with them. And the church began to spread from this point. And that was all from the gifts that the Holy Spirit gave the disciples and still offers to us today to help us. So it's a pretty interesting story. Now, I'm sure you have a lot of questions about this story, and I will definitely look forward to answering them all to you when I see you guys again. But for now, I've just got a short task I want you guys to do. Okay, from this story, you've heard this story now twice, yesterday and today, though I've told it in a bit of a different way today. From this story of Pentecost, when the disciples were all together and the Holy Spirit came and they went out and got the courage to talk to everyone about Jesus, what can we learn from this story? What do you think is a message of this story? All right, why would we still tell people about this story today? What can it teach us? Now, I don't want to tell you the answer because there's more than one right answer. There are lots of things we can learn from this story. I would like you to write down, okay, in at least 2 or 3 sentences, what can you learn, or what do you think is a message from this story of Pentecost? Okay? Now, Pentecost is, like I said, this weekend, and that's why we're learning about it now, but it fits in very well with how we've just been learning about the Holy Spirit, and you can even see some of the symbols of the Holy Spirit we were talking about, like the fire and the wind, all come from this part of the story. So there's some interesting stuff here, boys and girls. Write down your response about what you think we can learn from this story in just your writing book at home, or if you're at school here, you can use your religion book. But otherwise, that's it for this lesson, and I will talk to you guys again later. See ya.